Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hidden Gem Video Games, and thank you for tuning in to this series, Massive Video Game Trade-In Part 2 of 3. This is Part 2 and a continuation from the first episode, where the same buyer visited the store a second time with more video games to sell. On this episode, we will showcase a huge 60-plus video game trade filled with Nintendo NES and Super Nintendo classics. We cannot believe how much more video games the seller had. Let's take a look at some, shall we? Starting off with a classic here, The Legend of Zelda. This game is the very first in the series, released in 1986, and it came packed in a shiny gold cartridge inside a cool gold box. This thing of beauty also included a world map with helpful tips and tricks illustrated on the back. Since the internet did not exist in 1986, gamers were forced to hand-draw their own maps and passcodes in order to get an edge on beating a game. Everything was truly a secret to everybody. Here we have a video game adaptation of the film, Dirty Harry from 1971. Go ahead, make my day. It is always interesting to see mature rated R movies turned into a video game early on the family-friendly Nintendo platform. Next is Rainbow Island. Interesting enough, this is the sequel to Bubble Bobble. The gameplay is similar to its predecessor. However, the main characters are now played in their human form, instead of controlling tiny blue and green dragons. We've also got Godzilla, Monster of Monsters for the NES. This one is a fun side-scrolling action game, where you get to control the Godzilla itself and Mothra. This one can be fun, especially reaching different bosses based from the film, Atragon, and the War in Space. If you like ninjas and kicking butt, then The Wrath of the Black Manta is for you. Though the storyline and characters can be generic, this game has challenging action gameplay, big sprite graphics, and cool ninja abilities. Now let's take a look at the unofficial and unlicensed brand, Tengen. This company notoriously released games early in the NES lifecycle without the proper licensing from Nintendo, and put their games on a unique black cartridge different from all the others. Nintendo eventually cracked down on these unlicensed titles, which forced the company to eventually release games legally. Tengen produced many fun titles such as POW, Prisoner of War, the RBI Baseball series, Pac-Man, and even their very own Tetris. Now moving on to my favorite console, the Super Nintendo. There are quite a few heavy and rare bangers in this set, and I cannot wait to go over them with you. Starting with the staple in the series, Super Mario World. This game is a very fun must-have title and is super common. However, the original boxed version shown here is extremely rare. Majority copies of this game was packed in with almost every Super Nintendo sold. So when Nintendo decided to release a standalone boxed copy, there weren't very many. This complete in-box Super Mario World can fetch upwards of $1,000, believe it or not. And here is the best RPG of all time, Chrono Trigger. This one here is fully 100% complete with all the original content, such as the instruction manual, maps, and registration card. This game has one of the best storyline that utilizes time travel mechanics. The characters are unforgettable, and the story features 15 different endings. An absolute classic. Now here's a rare one, Mega Man X2 from the Mega Man series. This sequel added more new stages and power-ups from the first installment and polished up the gameplay. It sports an enhanced chip developed by Capcom to allow better graphics and added 3D effects. Here's a receipt from when this was originally purchased back in 1995 for $75.11. Here's a set of very cool fighting games, Street Fighter II and Street Fighter II Turbo Hyper Fighting. One of my favorite, Killer Instinct. Fatal Fury, and Super Punch-Out. Again, everything is complete in box with all the original content. Another receipt purchase from the beloved Toys R Us. At last, we have two awesome action-adventure games, The Illusion of Gaia and The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. These included game maps, posters, guidebooks, and all the fun bells and whistles. Some consider this Zelda game the best in its series. Well, there you have it, folks. Over 60 complete in-box video games, which all have been cleaned, tested, and put in protective cases. These are now available for sale at Hidden Gem Video Games.